All right, we are back finally. Missed last week on Wednesday and missed Monday this week because I was traveling, but we are back for the live. We like to do these on Monday and Wednesday nights. Run it down here in the chat with you guys, go over all the things macroeconomics, mitigating taxes, estate planning, digital assets, all the stuff that I talk about on a regular basis and enjoy talking about. And people ask really good questions about. So I'm going to run it up with you guys tonight. I think excited. Looks like some macroeconomic events are imminently on the horizon here. You've been talking about Japan and the reverse carry trade and everything that's going to, kind of go off there once that does kind of unfold. And something's going to happen. There's one of three things that can happen. We can lower interest rates, which I actually think is probably the best scenario for the U.S. If we were to just lower rates, if the Fed came out and pivoted and came down like 50 to 75 basis points, I think that could help move some liquidity into the broader markets and kind of drive the demand side as people sold positions in the stock market areas as they sold off to be able to swap to dollars and then back to yen to be able to repay their loans for the reverse carry trade. So I think that's the one that ideally plays out, but we'll see if the Fed does that or not. I mean, we're looking for them to drop rates here in September. It's kind of priced into the market. People believe that's going to happen. And that makes sense right here before the election that they would start to let people breathe a little bit. Not going to help much with the proposed tax on unrealized capital gains, which is absolutely crazy to me. I can't believe anybody's okay with that. I guess if you don't have any investments, it doesn't really matter to you. But anybody that does have investments, anybody that's watching this, definitely going to matter for. To have 25% capital gains tax on stuff that you didn't even sell makes no sense. So if you have appreciation on assets, try to they'll basically force you to sell some just to cover the taxes. I don't know. It seems like anti-capitalism to the extreme to me. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't think we'll see who wins. I'm not going to get political on here. I think but we'll see what ends up shaking out there. So with that, I do think that the other thing that could happen is oil goes up in price. We have seen that climb a bit here recently, just with the attacks on the tankers there in around Yemen and Israel fighting. Conflict in the Middle East could definitely escalate, and then that would be a catalyst for oil prices there in Japan to go higher, energy costs go higher, and then have to raise interest rates. They talked about it today. They put it out and said, look, if we don't have volatility and markets look strong, we'll go ahead and continue to raise interest rates. As soon as they do that, you're going to see a lot of people pile out of positions and start to unwind their reverse carry trades. There's a lot of people that are, especially if the Fed, came out and pivoted shortly after that, and just it would exacerbate that whole position. So for people that don't know, maybe I can explain that. So the reverse carry trade is basically you borrow a bunch of money in yen at a very low interest rate from the BOJ or the Bank of Japan at like 1%. Or less than 1%. Sometimes over the last decade, they actually paid you to borrow the money. They had negative interest rates. So you borrow it there, swap it for dollars, put those dollars to work in the stock market or treasuries or basically anything. And you're making plenty of money to either service the debt or even get paid by the bank to borrow the money and then put it to work somewhere else. Again, crazy world that we live in. Trillions of dollars, tens of trillions of dollars out on that trade that'll have to be unwound when, there's going to be a percentage on the exchange rate, right? And so people are worried that if they don't swap it back fast enough, they'll have to liquidate positions, swap for dollars, takes a while for your stuff to settle, move the money, swap back into yen, repay the loans in yen, because that's how they're denominated. Could cause a liquidity crisis for sure. Banks in Japan seem like they are ready to handle that. SBI in particular, and R3, and a lot of the stuff that's put in place over there with HSBC, I think is ready to go. So once that happens and they start dumping U.S. Treasuries, I think it'll be interesting to see how they continue to provide liquidity to that market. We have the other thing is Russia plans to start settling international transactions in digital assets on Sunday and Monday here. Let's see, I think the first is Sunday. And then we have Memorial Day here in the U.S. For Monday, so 9/2. So banks won't be open again, domestic here in the U.S. until Tuesday next week after they close on Friday this week. I've always hoped and thought that the rollout of something big would happen on a long 3-day weekend. Not saying it will. I have no idea. I don't have a crystal ball, but it makes a lot of sense to me. If you were going to change systems, you would do it on a long weekend when banks were closed. So will international parties force the U.S.'s hand? Quite possible. Could we see price appreciation on certain digital assets before they start using it? I think you would actually have to be honest with you. I think you would need liquidity in the assets that would be used for international settlement, XRP in particular, before they could use it to settle international transactions. So we got 2 days left here in the week. See if anything happens this week or over the weekend, but we're due. All the charts say that we should see breadth open up and an alt season happen here shortly. BCB, blockchain backer, if you guys don't watch him, highly recommend. Still waiting on breadth to open up in the Russell 2000 and for us to have expansion. I think NVIDIA, I didn't see where NVIDIA closed today. I think they made their earnings. So could mark a top here. That's kind of what I anticipate. FANG stocks and the Magnificent Nine or the Sexy Seven or whatever they call them now. the largest stocks in the S&P 500 tech stocks. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, NVIDIA. We were talking to a client the last couple days, and he had told one of his friends to buy $1 million worth of NVIDIA back in 2018. And I'm like, pretty good call on that. You would have done as good or better than Bitcoin if you had done that. So anyway, excited to see what's going to play out here. I think we're right on the precipice of some big things happening over the next 30 days, going into the election here. I don't see them coming after crypto. We did see OpenSea had a Wells notice today. NFTs are hard. Are NFTs securities? They could be, right? I don't know if you could stake it and earn a yield, and you gave it to somebody else or put it with somebody else to be able to earn that yield. And they're marketing that yield. That's why I think pure proof of stake is a security, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but Prometheum's come out and said that Ethereum's also a security, and they're the only, licensed broker dealer for digital asset securities here in the U.S. Like them or not, I think most of crypto, everybody doesn't like Prometheum. but I think that they do have that right. Personally, I do think that Ethereum, when it migrated to proof of stake, pure proof of stake, is, in my opinion, a security. So, and there's a lot of people that don't like that. That's okay. You don't have to. I think delegated proof of stake will kind of like skirt that, because you're not having to actually put up the item, the asset itself, to be able to earn interest. I think if you're able to hold that and like delegate that liquidity or the vote or whatever you're delegating to the pool to be able to earn returns, and you have a choice. So like Bifrost, like if you have Flare and you're delegating your vote to an FTSO, I think that that'll skirt it. I don't think that that necessarily is a security, but I think if you're putting the asset itself into a pool in anticipation of returns on somebody else's efforts that they're marketing, smells like a security to me. The NFTs is interesting. Like I said, though, I don't know what's going to work out there. Bored Ape Yacht Club, they've already had some stuff. I don't think they go anywhere. I think they're big enough that they're probably okay. ApeCoin seems like a security to me. Again, common enterprise, marketing it, and then paying out returns to people. We'll see. Could be, maybe it's not. We'll see what regulations hold in the space, but smells like a security to me. And people, again, can get mad about those things. That's okay. I want to play compliant, regulated, safe, make good choices. And I think, people that work with us will be better served for it. So we'll go ahead and run it up here in the chat. If you do have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we will run it down tonight. So you guys always ask fantastic questions. We'll hang out probably about an hour and a half, and then shut it down around 10:30 Central Standard Time. But until then, we will shotgun a lot of these questions. So DevKev says, hey Jake, how are you? I'm doing well, sir. Appreciate you hopping on tonight. I'd like to ask about taking 6 to 7 figure profit from an exchange in the future instead of transferring all to a bank account. Should we convert a portion to USDC to store away? It's up to you. I do think, so all of the regulated entities that we've talked to like USDC. They also like Paxos. Both of those pay a yield if you're holding them somewhere, right? So if you did just want to park it there, probably not going to hurt you to do that. We're actually finalizing things with Anchorage to be able to provide bank accounts for people inside of qualified custody, business accounts where you can take it direct to your bank account and earn a yield through money markets or other solutions with them, or hold it in a stable coin and earn interest there. So yeah, I think that that's a good way to do it, especially if you do plan to roll it back into digital assets in any way. You're not going to be able to spend the USDC until they pass stablecoin regs, but I also don't think we see really significant adoption of XRP until they pass stablecoin regs. So honestly, you should be good with that, and I think there'll be a lot of merchants that do accept USDC in the very near future. So MasterCard, like their game, they were one of the people that we talked to about USDC and Paxos. Not so fond of Tether, but both of those, they seem like those would be fine. So I think, merchants and other people will accept those private stable coins in the future on the other side of price appreciation. And it could definitely be a way to be able to park some money and not take it to a bank account or have problems and earn a yield. So up to you, but I do think it is a good choice for some people. Let's see here. Thank you for being such a gem in the community. Thank you. And providing us so much knowledge. What are institutional custody doing to protect consumers? So the way that our partners structure and store the keys behind the wallets is pretty interesting. A lot of the your keys are together, right? and in order to send a transaction, they have to be. When the institutional custodians, when you're not sending a transaction, they shard the keys, store them across the globe on HSMs or hardware security modules, and they don't get pulled back together until the quorum is met. You sign the transaction, we sign the transaction, and then you're able to submit that to the blockchain and send the assets wherever you need to. So you would have to hack all of those HSMs that are randomly holding each one of those shards across the globe, identify where all those were held, hack all of them at the same time and pull them back together. All of that's cryptographically locked, and it's done in a way that I think is it quantum proof? It's as quantum proof as anything it is today. Again, because the keys are sharded and then held across those HSMs. So it would be, I don't want to say, you can't ever say impossible, but as impossible as it could get for anything that exists today to hack the solution that we use. So anyway, hopefully that gives you some warm and fuzzy. It gives me the warm and fuzzy about my stuff. Jesse says, how quickly will we be able to start earning once we have finished onboarding? Is there a time difference between going Archax versus Anchorage? When can we earn on XRP, XLM, UXDC? So XRP, off the jump, we can earn on that. XLM is going to be a little bit because we cannot hold that in institutional custody. Archax, we're holding off on in the short term here. There's really, so this is crazy. There's a few other RIAs that are onboarding clients that are holding digital assets that are native, right? That the people purchased and want to work with them on. In the 3-4 weeks here since we started to offer that service at scale and really work with people to sign the agreements with us, we've already become the largest globally wealth management service specific for crypto for the total number of clients that we have, which is crazy. So kudos to you guys. I was super blessed and grateful to be in a position to provide this service for as many people as we are, and I'm super excited for the price appreciation and all the things that we're going to be able to offer people. XDC, so the three that you mentioned here, Anchorage does hold quant. We can earn on quant, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, pushing them for HBAR, pushing them for XLM, pushing them for XDC, but they don't currently hold those. We do have an opportunity here within the next quarter for XDC in particular. If you want to join the mastermind community, we can talk about that a little bit more there. We have a way for you to be able to, put that legally into a pool and earn some interest on it. So would love to chat with you, there if that's something you're interested in. The XRP, I'm looking forward to once the AMMs are institutionally adopted, once some of these other amendments are passed on the XRPL. So we need oracles, we need digital identity, we need atomic swaps, we need liquidity pools and pseudo accounts, a lot of that stuff. And we will be taking advantage of those things as they do come online. In the short term here, we do have a way to be able to generate returns on XRP that's extremely safe. Your assets are held right there in institutional custody, insured, and you're able to service the little bit of fees that we charge and make extra money on top of that. So pumped that we have that opportunity, and we do have the capability to loan against it as well. So all the things that I wanted to have in place, we've actually been able to accomplish through partnerships. The onboarding with Anchorage should happen next week. We've had to go back and forth with their legal a lot. And again, this has really just been because they've never dealt with people that were crypto native. The RIAs that they've serviced in the past have come from TradFi, and they just had some clients that wanted to hold their assets in institutional custody, either for estate planning reasons or for the insurance and protections that provides. And we asked them about a lot of things that they just had never considered before. So if there's a fork and there's an airdrop of tokens, how's that handled? If they aren't going to support that, how long before the airdrop do we get notice that they're not going to support it, so that people can move their assets off platform to receive those distributions from the fork or the airdrop? Just a lot of things that, if we decide to go a different route and work with a different custodian, what's the time frame for us to get off the platform? They had it at like 30 days. And if we've got, people that are escrowed assets and their assets are, have a line of credit against them, or if they're just put in a way that they're earning yield and they're locked up, like 30 days is not enough, so just a lot of back and forth with them to make sure that all of our clients are well protected and that everything is situated in a way that's going to be best suited for the long-term benefit of our firm and then our clients as well. So hopefully we sign on the dotted line Friday this week, and starting Tuesday next week, we should be in the process of onboarding everyone. Hopefully. So let's see here. Will they sanction Tether after RLUSD is up and running? Will Tether have to liquidate its Bitcoin holdings in this case? Well, they can't sell all their Bitcoin holdings because now, is it Voyager or Celsius that's suing them for a portion of the Bitcoin that they said that they were owed back? I think it's Voyager that they're, don't quote me on that, it's one of the two. They're in a lawsuit with. So there's a portion of that Bitcoin that's currently like segregated off where they can't liquidate it to even become compliant. So I think maybe that'll be what causes Tether to, not be able to be used here domestically in the U.S. or by exchanges. It could definitely be that they get sanctioned. There's been a lot of potentially illicit transactions happening on that network. You've now seen Telegram and their token shut down, which is interesting. Tron has had a good little run here because NFTs and meme coins and stuff are starting to get issued on that network. RLUSD, that's what Ripple is going to use to settle international transactions in dollar denomination. They currently do use Tether in certain corridors. So once they launch their stablecoin, they'll basically de-risk themselves from Tether. And I think they've got it ready to go. They're using standard custody as their treasury for all that. My anticipation is if there are problems with Tether, they'll immediately roll out their RLUSD to make sure that they can provide services for the clients that are wanting to settle in a dollar-denominated asset. So yes and yes to your questions. I think it's the other way around. I think potentially there's going to be problems with Tether, and immediately once that happens, Ripple will just go ahead and roll out their stablecoin. Is that mid-September? Is it before then? Your guess is as good as mine. But I think those things will definitely be kind of in tandem. Alfredo, thank you, brother. Thank you for the super chat. He says, "Hola." I know there's two types of living trusts. Correct? Revocable and irrevocable. I have my LLC through you. Awesome. Which one would be best moving forward? Gracias. So on average, somebody that is a centimillionaire or billionaire has 7 trusts. Could be spendthrift trust, could be asset protection trust, could be insurance trust, could be charitable remainder trust. There's lots of different ways that you can structure those contracts, and for different reasons, right? You might hold assets in each one of those. Most of those are going to be irrevocable. You may have a living trust. The reason for a living trust, you would be the trustee on that most of the time. It's going to be filed in whatever jurisdiction you actually reside in. So whatever state you live in, you wouldn't file that in a separate state like Wyoming, where you might, file an asset protection trust, or Nevada or South Dakota. It would be where you live, and it would hold assets that you don't think are going to appreciate substantially in value, but you want to protect from creditors, and you want to pass on without probate for your children or your beneficiaries. So things like your home, your vehicles, stuff you use on a daily basis. It could be like side-by-sides or other toys. It could be a boat, family heirlooms, things like that, jewelry, gold and silver. All those are things, guns even. I mean, if you have a gun trust, you probably want to set that up in Michigan, and, have the silencers and all the cool stuff that goes along with that. But for a living trust, all the things that I mentioned before are things that we often see put in there. And again, you're going to get the creditor protection on that, and they're going to be passed to your beneficiaries without probate. But they're not the best thing in the world for things that are going to produce cash flow, or items that are going to appreciate substantially in value. So if you are going to have those types of things, an asset protection trust is really going to be your best bet on those. And again, we can set that up with a trigger trust where, if for whatever reason they do come under fire, all those assets can transfer over to the Cook Islands or another jurisdiction. A lot of fancy ways that you can set stuff up to make sure that your stuff never gets taken by anybody else. So you've kind of simplified things here, again, and this, when I first started getting into this stuff, this is the type of question that I asked. I'm like, okay, well, I know there's these living trusts. Do I set up a revocable one or an irrevocable one? Maybe there was just a couple types of trust. And in reality, there's dynasty trust, there's waterfall trust, there's lots of marketing names that people have stuck on these trusts, which is really contract law. And you can kind of weave it however you want. You can set things up specific in there to your situation. And our attorneys are very good at all of that. You probably will want some type of living trust. The irrevocable trust tends to be stronger for asset protection and mitigating taxes, whereas a revocable trust doesn't give you as much protection, but it gives you more flexibility if you decide, like, I don't like this child anymore and I don't want them to be a beneficiary. You can remove them. If it's irrevocable, it's whatever you set it up at the time, like, that's it. There's no changing. So, kind of give and take, and you want to do what's best for you. Daniel says, do the fees you charge, the 2% if you're below 5 million and less, if above, cover client side, lawyers, CPAs, reporting, etc. If not, how much for all of the inclusive package? Thanks. It does not. It does not cover all of that. So that is just the wealth management side of the business. All of the estate planning, CPAs, reporting, accounting, concierge service, private security, it's extra, right? And to give you like an all-in package cost, it would be hard to do. I want to get at things to where we're around $500,000 a year, all in, for all the services that we provide at scale. And if we're able to accomplish that, minus the performance fees, of course, like if we do really well and you make a bunch of money, then we're able to share in that with you. But just all these costs that you mentioned here, plus the AUM, I think we can get it to where it's about $500,000 a year for somebody that's got, north of 50 million in assets, that would need the full scope of services that we provide. And I guess that would probably be like the package deal. And so that would be about the 1%, right? As your assets grow, if we were able to maintain those types of costs, and it does not continue to escalate with the AUM, some of it will. So our trustee services that we provide, over 100 million. Actually, I think it is at the $50 million mark that we dropped from 50 basis points to 25 basis points. So anyway, ideally, if we're working with a client that's north of 100 million, we would like it if all of our services cost them less than 0.5% or close to 0.5% on an annual basis. Most family offices that are 100 million plus are spending somewhere between 1 and 2%, sometimes north of that, depending on all the professionals that they employ, if they're a single family office. But again, if you're generating 10, 12, 15% returns every single year, and you're employing all these people to make sure there's no mistakes, and you're mitigating taxes and getting all the benefits, it's well worth it, right? Because if you're trying to do it yourself and you make a 5% mistake, you could have just paid for 2 years worth of all those professionals to make sure that that didn't happen. So anyway, that's what we're looking to do, is provide better cost structures and benefit people on that side at scale, around less than 1% of your AUM for all that is what our ethos and what we're trying to accomplish is. Let's see. What percentage rate will Anchorage be paying to hold your XRP? Will that be paid monthly? Who's your college football team? Interesting question at the end of this. See, we have an extremely sustainable, safe way to produce somewhere between 5 and 6% returns on the XRP held with Anchorage. That payout, and so that's annual. That payout would be made monthly. And who's my favorite college football team? Man, I'm not a big sports guy, just to be transparent. I have grown up here in Texas, so I'm probably gonna go with UT Austin. Old beef down there. But I don't really watch a whole lot of college football. Vince Young came from there. I will say I like watching college sports versus professional sports, because you just see things in college sports that you'd never see in professional sports. So the quarterback runs the ball frequently in college football, when they almost never run the ball in professional football, because if they get hurt, they're done, their contract ends. So especially I enjoyed watching Vince Young play when I was younger. He went to Tennessee. I think he went to Houston, and then he went to Tennessee. And then, LT is here in Dallas. Met him, talked to him a few times. I have been to the Star, big here in Dallas, the Cowboys. Just got back from Indianapolis. Colts. That city is serious about their sports teams. So our general counsel and a few other people in our ecosystem they like to have fun on the sports side. So I might get more into it. I think the last time I played fantasy football was high school. It's a long time ago. So appreciate the question though. Let's see here. Henry Lou, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, "Hi Jake, appreciate you. Hypothetical scenario. We have 50 million in digital assets. Wonderful scenario. We want to retire and buy 2 homes, 6 million in total. Can TWP make that happen, and how? Require a little involvement. Hope that makes sense." Yeah, you got 50 million. There's a couple different ways that you could do it, right? So obviously you could liquidate a portion of the assets and just deal with the tax implications on that. If it's 2 homes, I don't know what you're going to be using them for. So you said to retire and buy 2 homes. If both of those homes are rental properties, yeah, you could use cost seg and offset a good portion of that that you sold the first year. We could set up, I don't know if charity is involved in what you want to do at all. You could offset some taxes that way. Vehicles, travel. There's a lot of ways that we could insurance, set things up where you're situated. If you wanted to borrow against that 50 million, no tax implications there, and you could purchase the homes with that money. You would have to service the debt on that in some way. So just thinking through that, right? Like if you think that your assets are going to appreciate, another 10x in the next year, you can borrow it and then basically just borrow another note and pay that first one back. I think that the infinite banking, a lot of people will do that. I think a lot of people will set up insurance. With 50 million, we could definitely do PPLI, and you could borrow against that. And you wouldn't have to pay it back because the cash value of the insurance policy would pay it off upon your death. So there's a bunch of different ways that we could do it, mitigate the taxes and get the house bought and set you up with some type of passive income so that you can be retired, and travel or do whatever you want to do. Definitely can help with that. DWP, that's what we specialize in. So would love to help you in that capacity if it's something you're interested in on the other side of price appreciation. And I think that there's going to be a pretty significant group of people that are close to that mark that you mentioned there at the 50 million. And I hope you are as well. So scroll back up here, see if I missed any. David, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, I spoke to Caleb and Brown. Best they will do is 2.5%. I explained at Kraken, it's 20 basis points, and they said they're still cheaper because Kraken will screw you on the spread, which is better. Looking forward to meeting with you, Digital Fusion. Don't think that's true. I think that Caleb and Brown is trying to sell you on something. Kraken does have a spread. Yeah, all the OTC desks still have a spread, right? But it's like 1%. It's not 2.5%. So we're going to do an interview with Caleb and Brown. I do like those guys over there. They do have a white glove service. They do charge a premium for executing transactions. They do provide liquidity when other people cannot. And you do have somebody that you can speak to and execute a transaction. They are white glove, and they deserve that fee. Okay, I'm not saying that they don't. They're well worth it. But I don't think it is the best solution for everybody that knows what they want to do. Inside our custody, we do 20 basis points. There's no spread. Like, that's just what it is. And we're able to move that into your cash account right there that's associated with your entity that we've set up for you. So I'm hoping, I really feel like we might see some price action in the next few days here, which I'm a little frustrated that it's taken this long to get everybody onboarded and get the agreement signed and like all that stuff. But on the flip side of that, I'm glad that we're not in the middle of that and don't have brokerage agreement signed or something else, and price appreciation happens and people are like, I want to liquidate, and then we can't fulfill on something. So I want to make sure that all of that's buttoned up and we can absolutely execute on everything that we are talking about for people, and we're not caught in a position where we can't deliver on a lot of the promises that we've made. So making sure that all that's buttoned up before we start onboarding people. And in the short term here, if we do see price appreciation in the next few days or over the weekend, probably want to have a Caleb and Brown or a Kraken account opened up where you can liquidate, if that's part of your plan, a portion of your assets. So we do have the capability to borrow against it already. As soon as it's in institutional custody, we can have that done within like 5 to 7 business days. So anyway, thank you for bringing that to my attention. And like I said, I think Caleb and Brown is justified in the 2.5, but at the same time, there are cheaper options. So scroll on up here. Thank you for the super chat. Bottom of the barrel. Looking forward to the near future. Oh, and David did mention Digital Fusion Summit. Look forward to seeing you there, brother. That's a family office event that we're going to have here in Dallas next month. Excited to see a lot of our clients there and a lot of other family offices and service providers that we work with. I think it's going to be a really good event. We'll do one annually after this year. I'm excited for it. So Greg says, "Hey Jake, do you know anything about Fortis Bank? I just received an email from Fortress Trust. Yes. They are transferring my account to Fortis. It sounds like a bit strange to me. Yeah. Fortress went under a little while back. I thought iTrust held their assets with Digital Trust and not Fortress. You can move your IRA over to us in the next 30 days here, no problem, and we can earn yield on the assets inside your IRA, which they're not ever going to do for you there at iTrust Capital. So pretty pumped about that. Excited to be able to bring those accounts over and provide people with benefit that they're not going to get otherwise. So yeah, if that's something you're interested in, please reach out to us. It's something that we can help you with in the next 30 days. A lot of our clients did send us that email, so kind of timely actually that we're in the position that we are, and we are going to sign this custody agreement in the next couple days here. So we'll be able to migrate people from iTrust or Fortress over to our accounts at Anchorage, which again has the crime insurance and all the other benefits that I don't think you're going to get over there at Fortis Bank. Let's see here. He also says, what dollar amount do I need to transfer it over to you? As I believe you should be set up by now and we are. Like I said, as soon as we sign the custody agreement, we'll be able to migrate those accounts. It's still 100,000 is our minimum threshold for clients. So, I don't know what you have there in your IRA. That is our minimum, is the $100,000. Hopefully we see some price appreciation. You're way beyond that here in the short term, which again, I think is quite possible. Cornell says, really appreciate your points of view. If XRP doesn't reach all-time high by the end of the year, would you rethink your thesis or wait to see what 2025 brings? If it doesn't, it just means it didn't get institutional adoption this year. It will. I know for a fact that it will get institutional adoption at some point, and I wouldn't really change my thesis. I've just had too many conversations that let me know that. If we don't see institutional adoption by the end of this year, I really don't see a scenario where that doesn't happen. But I've been wrong before, so I would question it for sure, but I don't think I would rethink it. Timelines have been pushed, a lot further out than I thought they were going to be anyway. So if I had to wait another 6-8 months, got to wait another 6-8 months. But I'm really confident that before the election, here's a really good time for them to roll this stuff out. So we'll see how that plays out for me. James says, "Hey Jakester, what's going on, man? Appreciate your candor. What mechanics do you think will bring the increase in XRP's value? Simple supply and demand. I've heard others comment ODL won't. Your take?" I don't think it'll be ODL. I do think it'll be a supply and demand type situation where there's a liquidity crisis, and in order to solve that, they will push liquidity into XRP and drive the price up on exchanges and on the backside of the stock market. I think there's going to be a knock-on effect again from the reverse carry trade unwinding and treasuries and stablecoin regulation that's going to lead to a significant increase in XRP's value as it's used at scale to solve a global liquidity crisis. So the other thing that I think could definitely bring liquidity into XRP would be an ETF from BlackRock. They already have the skeleton and the trust and everything filed, set up there in the background. There was a fake filing last year in November that they just swept under the rug and stopped talking about. They said the DOJ is investigating, and then we never heard anything else on it. To file an ETF from BlackRock The people that have to sign off on that and the people that have to notarize it, I don't want to say it, but man, like, it's not fake. So anyway, I think that may be the mechanism. We have seen the settlement of the Ripple lawsuit with the SEC now. So if there was somebody that pushed an S1 for an XRP ETF and they needed it, it was a matter of national security and interest, I think the SEC would probably push it through pretty quick. So again, that infrastructure's there. It's ready to go. It's literally file an S1 and kick it off for BlackRock. And I don't know what the scenario is where that plays out, but I will say that the only time that XRP has decoupled from the rest of the market was last November when that was filed, and people found out about it and it came out and then they swept it under the rug. XLM didn't even move. And XLM always moves with XRP. XRP moved independent of everything else in the market. And so that's what makes me feel like an ETF for BlackRock could, cause the increase in price or the value, like you mentioned here. And they'd be ahead of everybody else because nobody else has set up all of the infrastructure that's needed for the ETF. I talked to Grayscale about it. They don't have it. So, but they were like, this is very interesting. We did not know that. And I was like, look into it. So, let's see here. This is interesting. Trade Like a Pro says, can all of the 27 trillion US Treasury market instantly be tokenized and put on the XRP ledger, or does it have to happen slowly with newly issued Treasury bills, etc.? Here's the deal. You can't double dip, okay? And so what I mean by that is if the stable coins are going to be backed by the treasuries, they're not going to issue the stable coins on the XRPL and the treasuries at the same time, because then you've got double the value represented there. They're not going to do that. Could that happen where you tokenize treasuries on the XRPL and then those are used to account for stable coins on other networks? I could see that, right? Like, because then you have a representation of value on a separate network from where the representation of value of the treasuries is. But the treasuries are still going to be held by somebody, a custodian, right? In a Web 2 format. And then you're issuing a digital representation on chain that equates to the one-to-one value of the treasury bills. And then you're going to use the treasury bills again as backing for, like, I've been back and forth with a couple people on Twitter about this. I think you're just going to have normal Web 2 basic treasuries that are held by a custodian that's Web 3 enabled through an Oracle. And those will be the collateral that's used for the issuance of stablecoins on networks, potentially the XRPL in particular. And so that's what I think happens, and that's how I think those treasuries are tokenized. I think it'll be digital representation of those treasuries and a one-to-one backing for stablecoins. And I do think that could happen very quickly. I don't know that it would be instantaneously. Securitize was acquired by the DTCC, or sorry, Securrency was acquired by the DTCC. Securitize is partnered with BlackRock. Still no liquidity in any of those funds. Like, nobody uses their MetaMask wallet and wants to hold a security in it. It's not a thing. So I don't think that they're going to tokenize the treasury market in the short term. I could be wrong. They already are tokenizing some treasuries. They've mainly done it on EVM-based networks. I haven't seen it done on, I think maybe they did it on Solana too. And Franklin Templeton did some on Hyperledger. So again, I think you could issue a digital representation of the treasuries to be traded on one network, but I don't think you would issue the stable coins and the representation of the treasuries on the same network. Just my 2 cents. And if they were issued on a blockchain or a network, then they would be escrowed and back the one-to-one representation somewhere else. They wouldn't be able to be traded, because then you just end up with the same problem that we have now, which is where people rehypothecate treasuries. for derivatives. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on this. I do think that you're going to get that representation of value. That 27 trillion will be represented on chain. I just don't think it's going to be in the form of all Treasury bills. I think it'll be stable coins. Robert says, planning on cashing out 80% of my XRP in this bull run. Good for you. Is Coinbase and Kraken safe at the moment for selling demand? Also, do you recommend any group for investors with 50K to 100K XRP? If you're planning on cashing out that much, I would probably actually do Uphold. So if you want to ping me, and because Uphold has more liquidity for XRP than anybody else, and they have the best rate if you are doing large amounts of it. So, if you're cashing out millions, Uphold's probably going to be a better solution for that. To open an account with them, you do have to commit to at least a $250,000 trade every quarter. So I'm happy to get you Austin's information over there. He is my rep there at the OTC desk or Uphold Institutional. Kraken would be my other choice. I don't trust Coinbase as far as I could throw them, which I can't throw them at all, so I don't trust them really. And that's just because of how they've done people on airdrops and forks and other stuff. And I've told their institutional guy that to his face. He didn't really like that, but sorry, like, your company has been crappy to people. So I would rather work with people that I think are going to do the right thing and take care of customers. I will work with Coinbase as necessary. So there are certain assets that they custody that nobody else does. Cool, I'll work with them on that. But like anything else where I have an option, it's not going to be Coinbase. So Kraken or Uphold would be my recommendation if you are going to liquidate that much XRP. And if you want to join the mastermind group, you mentioned an investor community here with people that are somewhere between 50 and 100,000 XRP. I would say that we're probably the largest one of those. Beyond Rope Mastermind. So a little over 700 members at this point, which is awesome, crazy. Never would have, super blessed and grateful for the community that we have there and the culture. And I will say this again, I mentioned this last week. Once price appreciation happens, we are locking the door on the community and we are upping prices, and it will be much more stringent on the vetting process for people to enter that community. We do want to protect the people there and make sure that they're taken care of and they have the best resources and deal flow and all the things, right? So it'll probably be, maybe a month after price appreciation before we start letting people in again. So if that's something you're interested in, anybody that's watching this, you can use the code Beyond Broke 1MO, Mother Otter, for month, right? It's abbreviation for month, all capitals. And you can, try the social membership, which is like $25 a month, or the Carbon one, which is $100 a month. And if you come in now, you're grandfathered in, your rates do not go up, but anybody on the other side of price appreciation, the rates will go up. For me, I'm about loyalty. It's one of my biggest core values. And I choose people that choose me, and I take care of people that take care of me. So if that sounds good to you, we would love to have you in there. You just friend me on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn, and we'll basically vet you that way and allow you in the door. But again, on the other side of price appreciation, cutting that off for a while, and we're going to up prices pretty substantially because we do want it to be a much higher barrier of entry, and we want to protect the people that are in our community on the other side of price appreciation. So but yeah, would love to have you and look forward to seeing you there. Let's see. Atlantic Living. RP continues to discourage investors. Raul Paul. Got you. Enthusiastic toward XRP. What is his motivation to call XRP supporters cult worshippers? He never speaks up technology, pros, cons, only making money. Raul's done really well. I like his community over there, what he's built with Real Vision. I think he's a sharp guy. from the out, like even Bitcoin maxis, right? Like it's kind of cultish. I try to be pretty realistic about this stuff. I don't feel like I'm a maxi, even though that's my only position. It's for ROI. Like if you showed me something else that was going to make more money and have better returns and have all the other benefits that XRP is going to have in the long term, I'm game. Like I would sell it for that other thing. I just don't think that exists at this point. And if that makes me cultish, okay, you could say that, right? It does. There are definitely people in the ecosystem that become overly dramatic about it, I think. Again, I try to stay realistic about it and understand why it would actually appreciate and how it's going to be used and the people involved with it. And I try to distill that down to something that's simple and explainable for people. Whereas a lot of people, they, like as an example, there was a guy that came on Grant Cardone's show and he talked about XRP and he was like, you got to buy some. It's going to $10,000 real quick. That comes off a little crazy. You know what I mean? I don't think he's wrong. I do think that that'll happen eventually. But at the same time, you sound a little sketchy about it. You know what I mean? So I can see how Raul would think that about the community. There's definitely some of that out there. Again, I have a lot of respect for him and what he's built at Real Vision. I think he's a very sharp guy, done really well with Solana. Obviously, a lot of his thesis have played out. I think he's going to miss the boat on this one. I think he owns a bag of XRP, but it's definitely not the majority of his portfolio. I think he has a small allocation, and he's going to wish that he had more when it does go, because it's going to go quick. And it is going to be used at scale, and a lot of what we've been talking about over the past 4 and 5 years will come to fruition. And people will be like, oh my God, they were right. And then they'll watch, in November, they'll be watching XRP Unleashed and be like, how did these people know? So, is there another narrative? Is there somebody else behind him telling him to say those things? Quite possible. I don't know him well enough to tell you one way or another. Like I said, I think he's a good guy. I just think he sees the echo chamber that a lot of us do see on a regular basis, and it kind of is a little cultish. And so it hasn't moved, right? Like he's made a bunch of money on a bunch of other stuff, and I'm sure he's got people coming to him saying, hey, well, what about this one? And he's like, man, like I don't know when that thing's going to go or if it's going to go at this point, So he's not wrong until he is, and then he's going to be extremely wrong. So anyway, appreciate you bringing it up. You always have good questions. Appreciate you being here. The Fad, thank you for the super chat. He said, is 10K XRP enough to make $1 million? At $1,000? Yeah. Yeah. So XRP's got to go to $1,000. Is that right? Yeah. It'd have to, well, no, you said 10K, not 1,000. So it'd have to go to $100. I think that could happen in a short period of time if we saw institutional adoption. What's the dollar worth when that happens? I don't know. That's the other thing about this, right? Like, I do think that this will actually have a real return over pretty much anything else. But what are dollars worth on the other side of it? Do we have some type of hyperinflation? Is it a deflationary environment? Like, a lot of things I don't have answers for. But I know that there will be a significant real return on XRP, irrespective of what other fiat currencies do on the other side of this. $1 million in 1990, you were doing good. $1 million today, like there's a lot of people that have $1 million today, and I'm not like belittling that. I'm just saying it's not worth what it once was. Like as an example, Rockefeller was a billionaire in the early 1900s. Like the level of wealth that he had at that point is just absurd to me. Like, because that's when the dollar was actually worth something too, right? So to have $1 billion when the dollar had 97% of its value, just you could buy anything. Like, you buy countries, you know, and he kind of did. So anyway, I think that's quite possible. And if we see institutional adoption, probably likely. If this is a cult, should I grab my goggles and helmet? The Kool-Aid, Kevin, get the Kool-Aid. Let's see here. Frederick, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, also, what are the costs to consider startup and annual? Here, he asked up above. 2 super chats. Thank you so much. He says, been following you from Europe. Bro, it is late or early. It's really early there in Europe. Thank you for being up early and watching this. Unfortunately, always in replay because time difference. Well, that's exactly what you're talking about. If I open an LLC through you, do you pay capital gains as a non-resident? UK's, well, you didn't say UK, you said Europe. If you're in Europe, I would look at Portugal or Nevis would be the 2 jurisdictions over there that I think would be ideal for you. Unless you're going to move here to the US post price appreciation, then yeah, maybe set. But I don't see a reason to move assets into an entity established here in the US and just have more potential tax problems between where you are now and there. Switzerland's another, and Luxembourg are other good jurisdictions. They're in the EU. So you have choices over there. Those are the regions I would be looking at if you did want to set up. A Nevis LLC is great. The protections that provides you is fantastic. If you are in the EU, and again, same thing with those other couple that I mentioned. If you would like a team that can help you do that, happy to make that intro. Sachs Global is who we work with over there. Tobias and his team. And so, if you want to email us at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, we'll get you their information. You can reach out to them and they can definitely help you. Securitize coming to Swell. Thoughts on that? I got to follow up on Swell. It's in Miami this year, and I'd like to be there. We went to Dubai last year. Working on some things that could definitely be in concert with the XRPL and bring some value to the network. So I think that's very interesting. Last year they had, what's the layer 2 on Ethereum? Matic, Polygon. They were there at Swell, which was interesting to me. Obviously, Ripple is trying to promote the use of the EVM sidechain. So I think Securitize would probably fall on that side of the fence. That's what they currently use is EVM compatible stuff. So makes sense to me. I think BlackRock and JP Morgan and Axelar and a lot of that are definitely going to play a role by the end of this year in some capacity. And so it would make sense to me that you would see Securitize at Swell in November. Let's see here. Very cool. Hello, Mr. Claver from Greece. Very cool. Very early there. Thank you for taking the time and getting up early and being, and watching. The first domino looks like it's starting the chain reaction. Yes, it does. Looking forward for the outcome. Thanks for providing us value. Any thoughts on the XRPL Foundation changes? So Ripple needs to distance themselves from that. I remember when they set that up. Ripple provides grants themselves, and the XRPL Foundation also provides grants. I put together a full framework on how to launch a token and have it in compliance. And one of the things that I would say is, required in my opinion, is a foundation that's set up that gets an allocation of whatever the token is so that it can distribute that as grants for developers on the network. I think that they've gone about that the right way, and I do think that the foundation does help people. We got to see the XRP Cafe guys when we were in Vegas a couple weeks ago. Did not get to see Vet there, but I will see him on Friday. We're going to do an interview with him. We'll post that for you guys. Going to ask him a bunch of questions, run things down. Brilliant resource in the community. Super excited to be able to have a conversation with him. He's there in Germany, I believe. So not like super close to you, but not too far away in comparison to me. Yeah, I think it's good. I think the separation between the two is needed, and actually probably strengthens the view of the network that the asset itself is not a security. So, OMC says, in order to move from iTrust Capital to your company, what are the first steps of contact? If you just want to reach out to us, you can go through digitalwealthpartners.net. That's the website, and there's a contact form, and just fill it out on there and tell us that you're interested in migrating your IRA over to us, and we'll have one of our reps reach out to you and start that conversation. Let's see here. Richard, thank you for the super chat. He says, Jake, how many times per day can an XRP token be used? Are there transaction fees gained important to the token's earning potential and price appreciation in an AMM? Two good questions. So I don't know the answer to this. I will tell you what Robbie Mitchnick put in the calculator, okay? And I'm going to defer to him because Robbie's the head of digital assets at BlackRock, and he's who created the calculator, and he made it where it was a maximum of 10 times a day. Is that the real truth? I don't know. But that's what the calculator had as the maximum. So I don't think you can even find that calculator anymore. I think they took the site down. I've been around since 2020. I've seen a lot of stuff come and go. I remember when the original Rich List site was up, and it got taken down, and then Francis was nice enough to recreate that for everybody, Francis Bovine. If you guys don't follow him over there on Twitter, please do so. Awesome guy. He runs a validator on the network and puts that information out for free for people, which is a godsend, because it's nice to know where you sit, and have that data. But that's from my understanding, and I could be wrong. I'm not a developer. I don't claim to be. I just use reference points that I was given. According to Robbie Mitchnick and the calculator he created, 10 times a day would be the maximum that a single XRP could be used to transmit value. There may be developers that will tell me that they'll say, Jake's ridiculous, that's not true. Again, they're probably right, not me. I'm just telling you what his calculator said. And then you asked, are those transaction fees gained important to the token's earning potential and price appreciation in an AMM? Are those transaction fees gained important? So I guess there's a couple things here. The more XRP that is locked up in AMMs, the less there is on the market to move value. So it's kind of like a supply and demand situation again. So if it's being used in liquidity pools and AMMs, and it's locked up and delegated, or institutions are holding it on their balance sheet as a tier 1 asset to collateralize derivatives and other things, there's really not a whole lot available to actually move transactions on an international scale or for different applications where we have payment flows, that are in the trillions. So in that aspect, but the fees on the network are tiny. I think it's like 0.000012 XRP that's burned per transaction. So for like right now, I think it's less than a penny to send $1 million. So the fees on the network really aren't appreciable. At the current burn rate, XRP is around for 1,000 years, something like that, before it would all be burned up. If you had the same amount of transactions and XRP burnt per day right now, then it would last 1,000 years. Was the calculation I did on it. I think it's like maybe 5,000 XRP a day that gets burnt, and they could reduce the fees. So that's in the code. But yeah, it benefits the AMM. Important tokens, earning potential, and price appreciation in AMM. I don't know that it's the AMMs that'll cause the price appreciation for XRP. When you put the XRP into an AMM, it could be one-sided XRP, and the other side is the other asset it's trading against. I would like to get to a place where the pools don't even have XRP in them, and you're able to use XRP and lock it, escrow it in institutional custody, and then either borrow against it and into the AMMs and earn a high enough interest rate that you can sell some of the LP tokens to service the debt. You get the other upside there. Or there's hopefully potentially a way that you can just delegate directly into a liquidity pool, and that value is represented in LP tokens. So maybe you borrow against the asset in LP tokens and put them in a specific pool that has assets that are issued on the XRPL trading against one another, or neither one of those assets is XRP. It'd be really cool to have AMMs that were like Apple stock versus Amazon stock, right? So there's no XRP there. Both of those, could still, maybe Ripple stock, okay? After they're, go public, trading against NVIDIA, tokenized on the XRPL. If you thought both of those were going to continue to have awesome returns, then you have exposure to both of those assets. You didn't have to sell your XRP, like dream scenario, right? And there's definitely going to be volatility between those two that people are going to arbitrage and trade. So those are the types of things that we're going to be looking at for the RIA and the clients that we help manage their assets, which liquidity pools and which AMMs are going to produce the highest yield over the term that we're going to be participating in them. And those are the ones that we're going to be, deploying assets and liquidity into. So I'm not sure if that exactly answered your question here, but hopefully it provided some context that at least comes close. Kevin says, what crypto token will align with nuclear energy? I think you'd be surprised that I think XRP is going to have something to do with that. We'll see. I don't know for sure. Could be Bitcoin. I was talking to a Bitcoin miner earlier today. Actually, it was yesterday. He has a really lucrative business model around it. So, got about 15 minutes left here for this evening. Just want to make sure I'm not missing any super chats from people. Appreciate all the super chats, by the way. Like, this is crazy. There's another one. The Fad. He says, for working class folk like us who don't have 100K worth of digital assets but follow you, how can we be grandfathered in? Mastermind community. We actually locked that in for a bunch of people that were in there not too long ago. We take care of people that take care of us, people that are proactive and want to, make sure that they're going to be taken care of. That's the place to go if you don't quite have enough digital assets yet to work with us on that side of things, because we're confident that you will when assets do appreciate. And again, we want to make sure that those people are taken care of. So would love to have you in the group if that's something you're interested in, and you can definitely reap the benefits if you were to do that. Let's see. Shirtflavor.com says, Jake, I didn't forget when you correctly predicted when the court case would end. It was about 2 weeks before, and your live predicted 2 weeks exactly. Pretty good, my friend. I don't have a crystal ball. I hear things from people and make good guesses sometimes. Got that one pretty close, which was cool. So appreciate you for noticing. There are trillions on the sideline waiting for regulation. You got more of his Bank of America stock I think he's got like $288 billion sitting on the sidelines right now. The majority of that's in treasuries, but a lot of it is in cash. So people think that he's waiting for a crash. I don't think he's waiting for a crash. I think he knows that there's going to be a liquidity crisis. And some people think that means a crash. It doesn't necessarily mean a crash. It just means that markets are going to seize up. And prices will lock. Order books will lock because there won't be enough liquidity to trade. And when that happens, you're going to need somebody with a lot of cash to inject into markets. Uncle Warren has been the liquidity provider. He was in 2008. He was when SVB and Silvergate and all those went down for the other regional banks. The U.S. government, he owns more treasuries than the U.S. government currently. So if you needed liquidity, Uncle Warren can help you out. And I think that's why he's got such a large cash position on the sidelines, is the U.S. government and other entities have said, hey, we need you to be holding, close to 300 bill over here in cash to be able to issue a stable coin against that, and then to provide that in liquidity pools and be able to provide liquidity to a tokenized. And I think he does know what's going on with that. I think he's going to well, we'll see. I don't want to be right on this. I don't want him to be right. But I do think that a lot of people's conviction that Bitcoin is not good will probably end up ringing true. The only way that really happens is if they tie it to like Silk Road and like Epstein and all that. I hope that doesn't happen. I have clients that have a lot of Bitcoin, and I want it to do really well. I kind of think that might happen though. So it's good to be diversified. Have a hedge. Let's see here. OMC says, thank you for the info on the migration. As always, pleasure being on your live. Thank you, brother. Appreciate the super chat. Again, fantastic questions. People, I can't thank y'all enough. I get a lot of fulfillment, like personally, from coming on here and just helping people out. So providing what value I can. So thank you. Yeah, so again, I don't know. This is something I should probably ask Vet on Friday when I have him, is how many times can the same XRP be used in the same 24 hours? He would probably be able to tell me because he understands the technical stuff on that. But again, I'm just going off what the wallet that Robbie Mitchnick, who's the head of digital assets, created. Like his calculator for creating, calculating potential price of XRP. The max number of times an XRP could be used in a single day was 10 times. So is that correct? Is it not? I don't know. That's what I'm basing my stuff off of. It could be wrong, but yeah, Living Legacy says due to speed, 10 times a day is what I've heard. So yeah, I think that's reasonable. I think that's fair. I think maybe it's more than that, but I don't know. Neurotic Nurse, thank you. Yeah, so here's if you do have an IRA and you want to migrate it from iTrust and you're kind of sketched out about the situation there and you want to be able to earn yield on the assets in your IRA and still have the capability to trade them and do all the cool stuff that you have been, have insurance on it, have somebody that you can talk to about all that stuff, potentially, earn yield and then get that put into a side account that you can draw a line of credit against, wink, wink. We can help you out with that. If you just want to check out the website here at digitalwealthpartners.net and, shoot us a message. What about Australia? So John Basilos is our guy there in Australia. He can help set your stuff up there domestically. We do, I just met with another team not too long ago that works in Southeast Asia and the Middle East, and they also deal with people there in Australia. If you need a contact to get your stuff out to Dubai, I have like the guy that does that there in Australia. And so, yeah, again, just email me at info@digitalfamilyoffice.io, and I'm happy to pass those resources on. So like, this is the cool stuff for me. It's taken me a really long time to build a Rolodex globally with people that are familiar with digital assets and can help people make sure that they're going to be able to mitigate taxes and set themselves up for success on the other side of this. It's literally taken me years to do it. and again, I've been super blessed and fortunate that other people have made introductions for me. So if you have anybody, like, so let's say you're anywhere in the world, you're in South America, you're in Canada, you're in the EU, you're in the UK, you're in the Middle East, you're in Hong Kong, China, you're in South Korea, you're in Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, any of those, happy for recommendations. If you found somebody that you can work with, that you feel is competent and capable, please, make an introduction with us and our firm. I want to refer people that do a good job and take good care of people. So if you have experience with somebody else besides us that you feel is worthy, I would love to have their information and refer them business for people that are in that jurisdiction that they can take care of. So just throwing that out there for people. Legacy says, how will the setup go with iTrust Capital onboarding in September? So same way it would be for any other transfer of an IRA. We will coordinate with whoever the other custodian is. You'll submit a request to migrate your accounts. They're probably going to charge you some fees for doing so, which is stupid. But we will look to try to figure out how to mitigate those, as much as we can, and then also be able to, again, start earning yield to pay for that transition fairly shortly after the migration's been done. So it's as easy as connecting them with us, and we'll work with Anchorage to get the assets over. Samuel says, if I own a barbershop, can I put my crypto under my shop LLC into my operating agreement, or do I need to start a separate LLC for my crypto? Barbershop. I don't know what the liability is there at the barbershop, brother. I don't know if you're a barber, probably doing straight razor shaves on people, and not to say you are ever going to cut somebody, but it's possible somebody falls on your property there, somebody could sue you, right? And so you want to segregate the risk on that. My recommendation would probably be to set up an separate LLC that held the digital assets away from your barbershop. I also doubt that your barbershop's in Wyoming. I could be wrong. Maybe you are in Wyoming. But Wyoming is the best jurisdiction currently in the U.S. for anything to do with digital assets because of the regulation there. And plus, you get no state taxes there in Wyoming. We have to do some specific things not to transfer that money to you and have it taxed by your state, but we can. And then you also get the anonymity that comes from filing in Wyoming because the registered agent and our name is on there instead of your personal name. So if somebody goes to look up the entity, they're not going to know that you're associated with it. So $1,000 all in. We do the operating agreement, registered agent, EIN, articles of organization, send you a video on how to set up the bank account, custom template for the operating agreement, SOP on how to transfer your assets, and we file the BOIR for you. So if you had an attorney do all this stuff, it's about $3,000. I've tried to make it really affordable for people to make sure that they are protected here in the short term. Happy to help you with that if it's something you're interested in. And again, you don't have to listen to me. You could put under your LLC there for your barbershop. Just be aware if that gets sued by somebody, they can come after those assets once they're listed in the operating agreement. So I personally would segregate the risk, but up to you. I'd recommend signing up if you're going to be a long-term investor in digital assets. Mastermind, Digital Wealth Partners are great companies to join. Thank you very much, shirtflavor.com. That's very kind words, and they are much appreciated. We, again, just try to provide people as much value as we can. I've been really blessed to be able to solve my own problems and then create solutions where I can share that with other people. So, excited to have you there with us also. Question. Infinitely Curious. I like your name. Question is, if we migrate our iTrust IRA over to Digital Wealth Partners, will we incur costs to do so? It won't be on our side. We're definitely not charging you to move your AIR stuff over to us. Will we owe taxes for transferring it? So it's equivalent. It's in kind. You don't. It's just like migrating your IRA from one custodian to another. No cost or taxes there. It's just going to be whatever cost the iTrust IRA guys charge, which I'm sure that there's an exit cost there. And I get it, right? Like, you want to retain people and hold them in your environment. But again, once you move it over to us, we can generate yield with it. And so it'll pay for itself. A couple months later, you've paid whatever fees, and then you're in the green and good to go. So we're not going to charge anything on our side for people that move iTrust Capital IRAs over. We do have management fees, so just want to disclose that, right? So anything under 5 million in assets, we do charge 2% AUM cost on. So we do have annual fees that we assess. So it may or may not make sense for some people. Again, reach out to Digital Wealth Partners. They're going to disclose all of our fees and everything else to you. If you think it makes sense, again, generating the yield, we can cover our cost and any transfer costs for you, plus more, inside the IRA with no tax implications. So Scott Taylor says, what makes you so confident XRP will be used to solve liquidity crisis? Obviously, it's probably confidential, but do you know people in high places who genuinely know this stuff? We have talked to a lot of people. But again, it's been super blessed to have conversations with MasterCard, the VARA, which is the Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority in Dubai, the DIFC in Dubai. Talked to Hester Pierce earlier this year at the SEC. We've talked to every custodian that exists here in the U.S. for digital assets, almost every other service provider, MG Stover, Auto. And again, like, and just to be transparent, there's never been anybody that's told me there will be a liquidity crisis and XRP is the solution. It's always kind of like, I ask questions and they either get really uncomfortable or they clam up, or they say certain things a certain way about the asset and their partnerships. We have a project with R3. We have NDAs around that. So take it for what it's worth. You don't have to believe me. The way that I put it is, I get to talk to the shamans or the Indian chiefs. They come out of the tent every once in a while and they have a conversation with me, and they don't tell me everything that's going on inside the tent. I kind of have to read between the lines on stuff. So that's what gives me the confidence. And again, I'm privy to the conversations that I've had with people. And again, it hasn't ever been just one specific conversation with this person where they said these things. It's been an amalgamation of talking to Ripple, talking to R3, talking to Link2, talking to everybody else in the space. I have a really diverse network of people that, and I don't think any of them know all the details, but enough of them have said different things to me for me to piece it together. So again, don't take my word for it. That's just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. Do your own research. I'm sharing with you. You guys asked me, so I'm sharing it with you. Brad, I do need a cough drop. If you want to send me some, I would gladly accept them. My business partner wants me to drink hot tea, and I did not get my hot tea before I got on here tonight. So that's my bad. I'm sorry if I'm coughing or wheezing or doing anything to make it not enjoyable to listen to. I appreciate your concern. Let's see here. Karen says, Jake, not exactly sitting well with me that you're pressuring people to join your mastermind before any evidence of breakout. Should you encourage people to make sound financial decisions? I'm just telling you what's going to happen when and if that happens. we will lock the doors and up the prices. That's what I've said for a long time. So not trying to pressure people. If you don't want to do that, cool. We just want to take care of people there. And so I do think that that's not too far in the future, just personally. But I've been wrong for a while now. So feel like you got more time, and again, I can give you the code for the free month. If you want to come check it out, see if it's something that's good for you, and if you want to be a part of it, you can do that with literally no cost to you. And if things should pop off in that period and you do enjoy it, then you're grandfathered in, right? So I'm trying to make it as easily and as accessible for people as possible. And we literally do provide financial advice through Digital Wealth Partners. We're an SEC registered RIA. You can look us up. We have partnerships with Anchorage and a lot of other large players in this vertical. Our financial advisors have Series 65s and keep up all their compliance, and we've had to deal with a lot of compliance to make sure that we're doing this the right way. Yes, we make sure that we're doing everything above board as much as we can. But I do appreciate the concern. And if you are new here and you haven't ever seen me before or heard anything I'm saying, then completely justified. And sorry if I made you feel like I'm like pressuring anybody. I just want to make sure that people are taken care of, and I don't think it's that far off in the future. So, let's see here. Jeffrey says, for newbies who don't have a lot of money to spread over multiple tokens or coins, which two would you do? XRP and not financial advice, of course. So again, I can just tell you my position. You do what you want with your money. I don't personally hold a Series 65. I am not a financial advisor. I don't give financial advice. I come on here and talk about my thoughts and my feelings and how I'm positioned. And everybody makes their own adult decisions, right? I only own XRP. That, some people will say that makes me a maxi. I'm cool. If that's what you want to label me as. Again, I'm in it for ROI. I really don't care about anything else. And I think it's going to be a tier 1 asset on the other side of price appreciation, and going to have a lot of benefits with DeFi and ability to draw lines of credit against it and do wonderful things with it that it'll have before other tokens. And so I'll be able to rediversify lines of credit into other stuff. When that happens, HBAR is going to be the first thing that I look at on the other side of price appreciation for XRP. They're here in Dallas with me. I have some biases. We talked to Mance and the guys at Swirled Labs at Consensus this year. Got to meet their chief business development officer, William Death. Yeah, that's really his last name. DE''ATH. They're doing some big things. They got some big partnerships working. And I think that they're probably going to be the base layer for Web3, for data and secure data and digital identity on, like, for Google and Dell and all the people that sit on their board. So, also the fees are fixed on that network. They're denominated in dollars and not in Hedera. So that also makes me pretty bullish. So anyway, that's my number 2 out of everything out there. If I had to pick something else, and it's what I'm going to be looking at post appreciation for XRP, for digital assets, would be Hedera Hashgraph. I'm going to go ahead and get down here to the bottom because I am going to wrap it up here shortly. Shirt Flavor, she's a nice lady. Look, people have concerns. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm happy to explain. When people have questions, she's justified. There's nothing wrong with what she said. So, just, yeah. Let's see here. Access denied. Kevin Doherty says, you have been very respectful and courteous. Is your channel, and you should plug your business. Thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm proud of what we've built, right? We've been able to solve a lot of problems. I've been able to solve a lot of problems for myself. I know that they're good quality. I wouldn't talk about the stuff that I do on here and promote the stuff that I do if I didn't think it could really help people. The professionals that we work with are second to none. I've talked to almost all of them across the U.S., like whittled it down to the people that I think are the absolute best in their specific expertise when it comes to digital assets. We work with people globally that I think are the best when it comes to that. And I'm proud, right? And so for me, I'd like to share that. I like to talk about it, and appreciate you, saying that. And I'd like to plug it, right? When it's applicable. I'm not on here to shill anything to anybody. I think that we provide good services, and if it can benefit people, awesome. If that's not a good fit, also awesome. Hopefully, really my main objective is just to get to people to start thinking about this stuff before price appreciation happens. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to use us at all. If you can find people that are close to you in your state or in a close proximity to you that you can have a conversation with, and they understand digital assets and they can help you get set up for success, please use them. Please, I just want people to be thinking about this stuff and setting themselves up before price appreciation happens. Who was I talking to the other day? Was Dave. What's I have to look him up here. Hold on. People were mad. The Stable crew, which I talked to him, by the way, we're good. I think he was just tired on that chat, and he didn't know me from Adam, and so he was like, I can't recommend somebody that I don't know is going to do a good job or not. And he just found somebody else to set his trust up, so he's working with them. And that's what I told him. I'm like, I just appreciate that you're getting people to think about these things before price appreciation. We're plug and play. So if there are any deficits, so let's say you do find another wealth advisor and you find another estate planner. Maybe you need the insurance. Maybe you need the CPA. Maybe you need the accounting. Maybe you need the reporting. Maybe you need philanthropic stuff. Maybe you need private security. Maybe you need concierge service. Maybe you need lifestyle management or asset brokers or asset management. I've tried to make sure that we have everything you could possibly want, and very competent, capable professionals in each one of those regards on the other side of price appreciation. And we work with clients now and provide those services. So it's not like it's an all or nothing either. Like, it's kind of an a la carte. Like, you bring whatever you have to the table and we will fill whatever gaps we need to. We just want people to have access to good people and resources. So thank you, Kevin. I don't say this enough. I know we're going to wrap it up here, but do hit the like button, share, subscribe if you think this is valuable. And again, soft plug, I'm going to say it, but talk about a lot of this stuff in the mastermind every Saturday and every Monday. Get in there, talk about a little bit more than what I can share publicly here. We also have private deals in the group that I can't talk about here in a public forum. And it's not because I'm like, get in the group and this is how I get you. It's literally because of regulations. I can't talk about it publicly, otherwise I would. Because I'm proud of it, again, excited about it. I just literally can't because of compliance and regulation. So if private deals are something you're interested in, we do have them in the group. And I am going to go ahead and wrap it here. Again, if you have any questions, if you would like resources, if you're in another jurisdiction, you can just go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and fill out the form there. Or, if you are interested in the wealth management and custody and earning yield on your assets and loans against them, you can go to digitalwealthpartners.net and fill the form. So anyway, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, a wonderful finish to your week. Like I said, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about the end of August and the first part of September. And I'm excited that maybe what we've been waiting on a long time is really right around the corner here. So till the next one, wish y'all all of the blessings that are coming to you, and we will see y'all on the next one.